Welcome to day number 18. Thank you for coming back for another day of God is Alive. I'm continuing my series today about characteristics of God with a characteristic that's kind of hard to comprehend. After we look at the first three, which are awesome characteristics of God, this isn't quite so awesome unless you really look into it. Today we're talking about how God is just. All over Scripture, it talks about the fairness of God, the righteousness of God, the justice of God. It talks about how God is just. And I think it's just as important as the other attributes of God. Without this fairness or this justice that God has, everybody would just be waltzing into heaven. There'd be no barriers. His love would prevail. There'd be no reason for us to do anything as Christians. We could just do whatever we wanted. Everybody could do whatever they wanted all the time. There'd be no morals. There'd be no balance to the universe. This justice gives us the reason to live well. In Deuteronomy 32:4, it says, "He is the rock. His work is perfect. For all his ways are judgment. A God of truth and without inequity. Just and right is he." There's a small book in the Bible called Zephaniah. It's basically an entire book talking about God's justice on people. Zephaniah 3:5 says, "The just Lord is in the midst thereof. He will not do inequity. Every morning he brings judgment to light. He does not fail, but the unjust know no shame." See, we talked about his love, his power, his victory. Today we have victory because God is just. In Revelations, it talks about how we one day in heaven will sing about God's love and God's justice. I put this right up there on the caliber of God is love, God is just. We tend to overshadow it with other characteristics of God, but it's written all over the Bible. I want to focus on a verse in 2 Thessalonians that talks about in persecution that we should be thankful and praise that God is just. Paul writes in his letter to the Thessalonians, as they're going through a hard time, he says, "Dear brothers and sisters, we can't help but thank God for you because your faith is flourishing and your love for one another is growing. We proudly tell God's other churches about your endurance and faithfulness in all the persecutions and hardships you are suffering. And God will use the persecutions to show his justice and to make you worthy of his kingdom. In his justice, he will pay back those who persecute you." As Christians, when we are right with God, we are righteous. And God's justice will one day pay back those who seek vengeance on us, who are out to get us. And that's a beautiful thing. I love the justice of God. One day in heaven, we'll be sitting together and we'll be praising God's justice. So next time you're feeling down, maybe you're being persecuted or you're in a down time, think about the justice of God. If somebody's jumping all over you or persecuting you for your beliefs or the things that you cherish, think about the justice of God. One day, we will praise the justice of God. Thank you for joining me for another day of God is Alive, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Flashing lights, drawing us in. Flashing lights.